Give it another minute or so, then we can start.
Okay, all right. Okay, good.
For now.
We have about 50 now, huh? Okay.
I'm sure.
All right, good. Hi, Ivan.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, good.
Good, huh? So how's the weather there in
Orang Johor.
Cloudy.
cloudy?
Cloudy, yeah. Wait lah. Once the border open, very bright lah. Coming, akan datang for sure.
Today post not lah, so enjoy.
Surely but slowly. All right, Rose, I think if you want to start, we can.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right, a very good morning, happy Thursday morning to all the distinguished speakers as well as the industry players in hospitality and tourism, to employers, to employees, to the staffs, to the educators, as well as the students and graduates. Okay, I'm so happy that for this particular session, this is the third MAH webinar session that we already organized along this particular RMCO. And of course, today's topic is talk about the future of the hospitality education. And as you know, based on the housekeeping note given by our MAH administrator, Mr. Yap, as well as Fadila, we require your cooperation to mute your microphone throughout the session. In the event of the interference during the session, the administrator may remotely mute your microphones. All right. So if there's any questions when it comes to Q&A session later on, please unmute accordingly. And we are most welcome to make to allow you to able your video. So in order for us to see who you are, how nice you are at home, in the office, or anywhere that you are today. And myself is Rose. Actually, I'm the general manager of MATEC. MATEC is the training arm for MAH. And I am the moderator for today. And we will have three distinguished speakers from a different industry, different background that are going to share with us about their thoughts regarding the future of the hospitality education. Before we proceed, I would like to do a quick sharing in terms of how the webinar will be going on today. And first, of course, I will be doing the topic introduction, and then followed by the introduction of the speakers, all right? Then later, I will hand over the session to the respective speakers accordingly. And then after all speakers have gone through their session, then I will open up a Q&A session whereby I have a few questions that I'm going to pose to the respective speakers. Then later on, we will open up the questions to the audience. Okay, along this particular webinar, you are free to post your questions at the chat box. If you can see from your screen, from your left-hand side, the fifth icon, it will be the chat box whereby you can, at any time, post your question over there. And administrator will be compiling the questions for the panels and me find which question is similar. And if you want to directly throw the questions to the speakers, also you are allowed to do so by unmute your microphones and throw the question accordingly. So are we okay with that? Is it comfortable for you now? All right, great. Okay, now. Future of the hospitality education. Okay, let me give an overview about what it's all about, because we know already in terms of the pandemic that happened recently in the whole world, right? And how it's badly impacted our industry. And when we talk about the hotel industry itself, is a people industry, and it relies on getting the right people to do the right thing at the right time. Okay, hospitality education is arguably at the base of all this, but it does not end there. What does it mean? It means that the industry has been long adopted the on-job training and on-job learning, and that is taken even further into career grooming and succession planning. On the other industry level, while we may not be directly involved in education, but it's ultimately the role of industry to keep interest among the youth, among the young generation, to entice them into a promising career in hospitality. So while many may think that hospitality is a tough industry, but it's also one of the very few that promising the lifelong opportunities, and that can be proven by the speakers later on from the industry itself. Having said that, hospitality education plays an important role in ensuring the industry is supplied with passionate and skilled people with the right attitude, complementing the very nature of the business. But how do we connect the dots between the industry and the education, right? So who does what, for example, and to what extent, and what change, or is it still changing post-COVID-19? So in this case, I would like to have this session to be a fruitful session whereby everyone should be able to focus in terms of the discussion, the views, the thoughts that the speaker is going to share. And from the audience point of view, we also would like to hear towards the end of this particular session from the speakers. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers. And our speakers are Encik Halim American. Encik Halim American is the acting president of Malaysian Associations of Hotels, and he's a certified hotel administrator with over 30 years of hands-on hospitality experience. He holds a diploma in hotel management and diploma in food beverage, and a graduate from Hotel Management School Les Roches in Switzerland. Over the 30 years of hospitality experience, he has worked with international hotel and resort brands such as Hilton International, Hyatt International, Pan Pacific Hotels and Resort, and Shangri-La Hotels and Resort. Over the past 20 years, he has dedicated himself in developing local hotel brands such as Mutiara Hotels and Resort, Impiana Hotels and Resorts, Sri Pacific Hotel Kuala Lumpur, and most recently, Windham Park Magelang. As apart from that, he also a certified HRD trainer. His passion is to grow local talents into great hoteliers and providing the insight of the industry to the younger generations. So I will reserve the other two speakers' introduction. I will proceed with Encik Halim. And Encik Halim, it's your floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Rose, and good morning to everybody who's joining this webinar. Firstly, I'd like to thank MAH, National Association of Hotels, Secretariat, and MATEC, who have come up with this webinar series. And as Puan Rose has mentioned, this is our third series, hopefully not the last. Yeah, I see that there are a lot of opportunities, and as what we want to look at is how COVID-19, the pandemic, has actually basically changed the way we do things, right? So, firstly, COVID-19, right, has taught us many things, especially about life itself. How do we survive in this current situation? Yeah, our own capabilities to survive. Hence, this itself, if we are talking about this webinar being about education, this itself is an education for us, yeah, on how we want to survive in situations like this, and more importantly, to be prepared for what else may come in the future. At least we are ready. Yeah. Of course, one main thing that I find, and I'm sure a lot of you will agree, is the change in our mindset when we talk about COVID-19. And this mindset change, if we have a negative mindset about what's happening, then it's going to be tough, and it definitely will not help. We need to dig in deeper. We need to dig in deeper within ourselves to find what else we can do. Find out what are we able to do, what are we able to learn, and at the same time, what are we lacking in order to survive in the situations like this. I think if you've seen a lot of webinars before and you've read many things, you know, especially when it comes to the hotel industry, where there are a lot of people who were either temporarily laid off or permanently laid off, they started to become very creative with their skills that they've learned during their time working in a hotel. I mean, we see situations where people are starting to go into baking, into cooking, you know, some of them have gone into training. They've started to talk about branding themselves, etc., etc. Yeah. So from MATEC perspective, and this is where I would like to share some slides. Yeah. From MATEC's perspective, you know, we too had to do a change. Yeah. So allow me to just share some slides. Just a moment. This is something, again, one I'm sure a lot of us have started learning about, you know, about these difficult times, right? So from MATEC's perspective, as what you can see, can you see the slide? Is it good? Can, yeah? Okay.
Yeah, we can see the slide.
So, okay, what we have done here is, this is actually our calendar for MATEC for the year. And what we have done here is, after CMCO and RMCO, we started doing virtual. And taking some of the topics or sessions that we have from our annual planner, we started to tweak and we started to convert them into, number one, virtual training. Number two, taking all the modules that we have here and looking at the current SOPs that's required with regards to moving forward under this condition of COVID-19, right, is to make sure that the hotel industry, the hotel sections, divisions are able to still operate and learn at the same time on the modules that we've put forward. So what you could see here, for instance, is during CMCO, we came up with this, you know, how social media can help your hotel during COVID-19. And we've read a lot about this, whereby going digital, making sure that, you know, especially for sales and marketing, to continue to target their current market, their current guests through using the database or the CRM. Yeah. So these are some of the examples that we've done. Changing mindset under uncertain times. This was something that I did during RMCO recently. Yeah. And some others, such as leadership during uncertain time, contingency plans for business recovery, you know, and after the dawn, sales preparation post-COVID or post-crisis. So from here, you know, from MATEC's perspective as well, what changes we needed to do, and I'm sure Professor Nitya will also speak about for Taylor's University, what they had to do, and also Greg will share later as well, what they had to do operationally in their hotels, you know. And I'm sure the Marriott and a lot of other international brands have come up with certain guidelines which all their properties had to ensure and adhere to strictly to ensure that our guests are safe. Yeah. So, you know, I think this is very important, that when we talk about education, you know, it's a never-ending process. Every day is a learning process. And that's something that I'm passionate about, because until today, even I have 30 years over experience, every day for me, being in the hotel, meeting our customers and all that, is an education and learning process. Yeah. So let's continue with the rest of the webinar, and I'll return this back to Puan Rose so that we can continue with the rest of the topic today. Enjoy the webinar.
Thank you, Cik Halim, for your views and thoughts regarding the challenges you are facing. What are the initiatives taken by MAH and MATEC during the MCO, CMCO, as well as RMCO? Okay, as what mentioned by Cik Halim, learning is not an ending process. We need to keep on learn, develop ourselves. Either we are from the academic background, I mean, in the industry, as well as in the in the hospitality industry, right? That means even though you are in the universities, in the colleges, you know, you keep on learning, gain the knowledge, get the skill, and then in the industry, when you're starting working, also regardless whatever industry learning, because sometimes the skill not be able to obtain during your university time, study time, because of certain factors and issues, etc. Therefore, we would like to hear from the industry perspective. In this case, our next speaker is Mr. Gregory Gubiani, the General Manager, the Westin Kuala Lumpur. Let me introduce a little bit about him before we hand over the screen to Mr. Greg. Mr. Greg, also known as Mr. Grigori Gugliani, apologize me, also known as many as Greg helmed the West End Kuala Lumpur since 31st August 2018. Okay, he has over 21 years hospitality experience. He's a French national, fluent in French, definitely, in English, definitely, Italian, Spanish, and German. Wow, 5 languages, huh? And I hope that you also can conquer Bahasa Melayu as well. All right. He's graduated from the School of Tourism and Leisure Management in France. With the room division's background, Greg kickstarted his career as a resort host in the international 5-star luxury resort in Maldives, and moved on to be a front office manager in French Polynesia. Young and dynamic, as you can see from the screen, Greg was spearheading the Aloft Kuala Lumpur Central from 2015 to 2018, before venturing into the West End Kuala Lumpur. Greg favors a cup of coffee during the day and enjoy good squash game on the weekend. So definitely we can see how fit is Greg. So Greg, I hand over the screen to you.
Thank you, Rose. Good morning, everyone. So thank you very much for having me there. Very happy to be part of it, and thank you to MATEC and MAH as well for all the work done and all the numerous policies released as well, which makes a big difference, right? Especially if you don't speak Bahasa Malaysia very well, we understand it very well. It helps a lot. So a lot of translations happening lately, which is good. So look, as you were saying earlier, I think for an industry that is all about the people, is potentially the toughest part of the job. Is that we come to a point where what used to be all about the people has certainly changed a bit at the moment. Hotels are closing, hotels are sometimes barely open. There's been some layoffs done, so a lot of tough situations. But I think that it's about looking at what's next. We talked about hospitality education and what it meant and what it means moving forward. I would say the negativity, I think it's about moving away from it and turning into what has ultimately COVID-19 situation brought in terms of positives. And I feel that despite all challenges that exist around it, it has brought potentially people together a bit more, in the sense of it has created maybe stronger relationship. It has allowed to participate in different meetings like the webinar I'm doing now. It has allowed to connect different, I would say, maybe communities back together. And even more now that the RMCO is a bit more relaxed, there's opportunities to keep on doing some CSR work. There's opportunities to look beyond just the basic hotel job. And what education for hotels used to be, and many of you might agree or not, is that everyone relies on interns, on trainees to come in and do part of the job, or go to schools, go to universities, do a talk, and try to get maximum of students to get interested in hotels. And I think even though that might continue, it's about how we're going to really share what hospitality is all about. I always say when we have orientation in the hotel, hospitality is the only industry where you have so many different type of jobs inside, and each and every single job plays a role in how the hotel structure works. And not many industries can pretend to offer opportunities to start at a room attendant level, stewarding level, and end up at a management level, executive directorship, or whatever else level it is. And I think that's something extremely unique. But the important part of it is always to remember where we come from. Everyone wants to be the queen of the world, but maybe not everyone wants to start at the rank and file level. And I think there's nothing more important than starting at that rank and file level to understand what it means, what the basics of the job is. We talk a lot about, and I share a couple of slides. We talk a lot about what the new norm is ultimately. If you really think about it, all about hygiene has always been the same for years, right? Hygiene has never changed. Hotels have gone through food and hygiene, food safety and security, housekeeping, cleanliness for many years. So I think that this is something that will keep on being present. And this is something that will still be going on for the future. It's just going to be about ultimately how we can reinforce it and sit, and how we can make that understand at every single level, starting from the student who goes to college, university, to ultimately when you enter the hotel and work in the hotel. Can anyone see the slides? Can you see the slides? Yeah? Okay. So, just 1 second. Some technical. Sorry, I get the slide. I got some issue with my computer. So never mind. What we can see nowadays is that every company has put in place a lot of new procedures in terms of wearing a face mask, wearing gloves, how to disinfect public areas, how to clean a room, how to use XYZ equipment, how to welcome customers, and everything that goes with it. And look, and that's great. And I think it's always been there before. It will keep on being there, maybe with extra focus. But the first step starts from how consistent are we in doing it? How consistent are we in sharing it? And now we can ensure that at every single stage and every single level, ultimately, of the job we do, of the trainings we do, how we can share that. So if we go to universities, and look, every hotel chain does the same, or every hotel does the same. We work with Taylor very closely, which is great. We ultimately are able to go and talk to students, but I think that the most important part of it eventually comes from the fact that how do we ensure that all the way through we give that will, from a perspective, to share what hotels are all about. The good, the bad, the ugly, because no one can tell you that any hotel is perfect. There's always something happening, and I'm sure that everyone on the call had many years of experience, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Sometimes more the ugly than the good. But the good thing about it is that we have a chance to recreate how we deal with customers. We have a chance to recreate how we work with our own staffs. Recreate how we can share what the hotels are all about. So can we see the slides now? Yep. So we talked about how we create, how we focus on IG, focus on what Marriott calls the commitment to clean. And other hotels talk about various names, but it's all back to the same. How do we ensure that customers who steps into the hotel doesn't see necessarily any change in how he or she is going to be treated? How do we ensure that the staff feels comfortable wearing the PPE all day long and for how long it's going to be? How do we work with, the social distancing and how long will social distancing be? If you go around, look, I'm based in Bukit Bintang, you go around to see some restaurants, I tell you, social distancing, there's not much really happening anymore of it. If you look in Europe, since Europe opened its own borders, social distancing has gone completely. People have to wear masks, people have to wear certain PPE, people sometimes are a bit worried to go out from the to send the kids to school. But if we all do what from single person perspective, if we all follow whatever guidelines have been issued, be it by the government, be it by MAH, be it by ultimately each, it helps us to get through that period. But long term is going to be, how are we able to look after our customers the same way we used to? There were a couple of days ago an article on how hotels in Dubai that are all 5-star hotels, luxury hotels, how the customers want now a different type of experience. No one wants to potentially in a crowded place anymore. No one maybe wants to look at it the same way. Everyone look at their own maybe more personal experience. How do we ensure that our own, that the customer journey, basically, from the moment they come to the country, from the moment they come to the hotel, they feel that, okay, I'm comfortable in here, I'm going to share a few things that we've put in place with Marriott. either be it from restaurant perspective, kids club, gym, pool, everything that goes with it. As more and more policies have been released, the good thing about it is that we see that there's a will from, or at least from the government and from every tourism body to start operating the tourism industry, which is something extremely important in all over Malaysia. You know, how do we ensure that when we and recruit people, when we go and train new hospitality at any level, how do we take care of them, not just in terms of the training, you're going to be with us for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, but ultimately, how do we more type of coaching? How do we ensure that we spend the right time rather than just saying, okay, it's a training, let's get out from it. I think the norm changes. You know, we talked about virtual meetings, we talked about video conferencing, but the people aspect is something that will be replaced. How do we ensure that behind the mask, you still see a friendly face? And I'm going to put just a couple of slides quickly that I found quite interesting. You know, the slides you can see here, the facial expression of the person is extremely important. It's not because we're going to be wearing masks for a certain period of time or eventually some PPE that it changes the way we interact with customers. I think more than ever, it's about creating that connection. I think more than ever, it's about ensuring that we train our teams, we train the future leaders of hospitality to be more people-oriented rather than just being transactional, to really create that interaction and really create that that connection, that new type of connection with customers. You know, how do we become consistent in what we do on a daily basis? And I feel, at least, you know, that it's not about achieving greatness. It's about, for me, it's at least about achieving consistency. You know, the other part of is how consistent can we be? How can we ensure that from day 1 to day 365, you know, everyone does the job? How passionate are you with the job? And doesn't matter the job you do, because as I said earlier, every job plays a key role. If you don't have stewarding in the hotel, I tell you, your kitchen is a nightmare. If you don't have housekeeping in the hotel, who's going to do your rooms? And these are the type of jobs that are even more important nowadays than maybe what they used to be, because there's more the extra tasks to be done, the extra attention to be paid, and the extra love to give to the staff as well. Because, you know, without these key positions, the hotel is nothing. So there's a lot, I believe, from an education perspective that needs to be done. There's a lot in terms of how hotels can convey that message, how we can welcome, you know, future talents into the hotels and show them what the hotel is all about. You know, every hotel wants to be glamorous, but the reality is that not every hotel is glamorous. You know, so it's about how you create that glamour through the property, how well you look after your people. You know, it's an industry that remains and will always be all about the people. Even if now you can do a lot from a technology perspective, nothing replaces that human factor, and that's potentially the part that really needs to be enhanced beyond the new norm of hygiene and cleanliness. I think it's a new norm about how people are going to connect better with people. So just a couple of thoughts on that. I can't hear you.
Forgot to unmute it. Okay. All right. Thank you. Great. All right. So we have heard from the associations. We have heard from the industry. What I can say about from the industry is all industry, not only hospitality, but the unique about hospitality is everything that you are in the hospitality is a very unique, because there's a lot of things that you can explore at one time in one particular one particular roof. I can say from the ground floor up to the management. And of course, when we talk about those people who are would like to join this particular industry, who want to venture into this industry, they want to be king and the queen, but they forgot to understand that they have to explore from the rank and file It doesn't mean that you have to be at the lower side, but for you to explore, get to know what is the reality of its hospitality industry, you need to be at the ground floor for you to understand the reality of the working environment, especially for those young students who are coming, who are just come up from the university or the colleges or from the school. They want to venture into hospitality. They need to go through this kind of orientation program, which is held by the respective organization or the hotels. So in this case, when we talk about the expectation, the characters or the attributes that looking by the industry itself, so we need to know whether the academy or the colleges, the universities, able to understand what are the characteristics or attributes that they are looking for. Can the academy or colleges, school able to produce these kind of characteristics? People that talking about the people-oriented kind of personality, instead of they just gain high CGPA in their scroll, but we also looking into their soft skills. So in this case, I would like to hand over to our third speaker, which I'm going to introduce, Professor Dr. Nitanandan Ariragavan. He currently is the Executive Dean in the Faculty of Social Sciences and Leisure Management in Talis University, Malaysia. He has over 27 years in academic experience, and he highly involved in hospitality and tourism education in Malaysia. And in November 2013, he initiated the setting up of the Asean Tourism Research Network, or known as Asean Tourism Research Association, ATRA, right? A regional cooperation among universities in ASEAN countries for greater research and collaboration, education collaborations on issues related to hospitality and tourism. He is presently the president of ASEAN Tourism Research Association and has been active in various international boards such as Pacific Asia Travel Association, PATA. His area of research include on higher education models and systems, hotels and tourism development, and innovation and food and culture. Without further ado, I would like to hand over this to Prof. Dr. Nadia.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to Madam Moderator Rose. Thank you so much for the invitation by Malaysian Association of Hotels. Thank you to Mr. Halim, a very close friend of the school as well, who is the acting president. And Mr. Yap is somewhere here, the CEO of MAH. So it's truly an honor to be invited, and it's truly a privilege to be given a few minutes to speak. I was told I'm given between 10 to 15 minutes. I'll try to keep to my time. But what I will do is I'll try to share some slides that I've actually prepared specifically for this event. Just give me a second. I try to connect myself. Can you see my slide, if I may just ask?
Can't see. Nothing yet.
No.
Yeah.
Let me try again.
Still nothing.
Let me just give me a second. Let me just try again. The other day was okay. What about now?
Not yet, Doctor, not yet.
Maybe Rose, maybe the administrator can help to post it on? Or you don't have the slide?
I think she doesn't have.
Okay, Prof, what you can do is
I went to share, but
share content, and then you go to the folder that you save your file,
Yeah.
and then you click that particular file.
Give me a second. I tried the other day, it was working.
Yeah, that day was okay. So able to find your file, Prof?
Yeah, I have my file on the screen. Sorry about this.
So while waiting for Prof to
Yeah, maybe.
slide properly, we can take a look from the chat box. We welcome a question from the audience, and our administrator, Mr. Yap, is also posting a few. So if we're not able to respond to your question within the time frame, kindly your name, your from which hotels you're coming from or from which organization, and we will interview you.
Cannot share.
Probably, Cik Halim, while waiting for Professor to upload his slide, by looking at the question from the chat box from Mr. Chan Birdie, yeah? He's asking about, in your opinion, what are the new expectations of hotels guests in the post-COVID-19 era? Safety, security, concerns are given. What do hotels enhance the new user experience?
Okay, I think basically, definitely, as you mentioned, the confidence of the customer is definitely number one. And how can they be confident is definitely, as you say here, is the safety issues. Yeah. However, we have to realize one thing. Yeah, there are certain. Oh, okay. So how do I answer, or Nitya is on already? I continue with the answer. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. Can.
All right. So hang on. Let me.
Please go ahead.
Okay. So basically, the guests who comes to the hotel are expecting a similar experience. What we have to realize for the moment now is there are certain SOPs that need to be addressed. Okay. Of course, we're talking about social distancing and recording their movement, and hotel has to put all the sanitizers around, and the cleanliness has to be, the timing and the frequency of the cleanliness has to increase. However, the guest is still wanting to go and experience your restaurant. They still want to experience your swimming pool, especially those in the resorts. They still want to have a similar experience. So this should not change. It's just that we have to be aware and we have to be mindful that there are certain SOPs for the time being that needs to be observed, right? Definitely, I think there's another question there about swimming pool, if a guest is in the swimming pool and we are fully aware that the SOP doesn't allow horse playing or frolicking in the water, children, etc., then this needs to be complied to, right? So at the end of the day, the experience should not change. They still expect good service. They still expect good food. Yeah, although we can't have buffet, but there are different ways of us being creative of how we can provide them a good meal, right? At the end of the day, we probably move towards bento boxes. We probably move towards a buffet line that actually has a screen, a plexiglass, and then a guest can still pick and choose what they want to eat. It's just the difference is it is now going to be served to you. Okay, so at the end of the day, I think the experience should continue as how we would have continued doing our business under the normal circumstances. It's just now observing the additional safety features, the safety media. You continue with turn down service. but you probably have to do the turn down service immediately after you clean the room, rather than coming back later in the evening, especially for those hotels that are doing 5 stars that still practices turn down service and actually provide some amenities, during the turn down. You can still do that, but you do it now probably immediately after you clean the room, right? Room service, that still happens. It's just the difference now is you don't push the room service table into the room. You just leave it outside where the guests picks it up themselves. So again, all this are the norm that happens, but we just have to remember and observe the SOPs that are required. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Halim, yes, I believe from the industry, what do you call it, the hotel SOPs that has been put up, has created the confidence of the community. We hope that everyone, the guests who coming in, comply to the SOP, because this is for our own good, for our own safety and security. Okay, now we get back to Prof. So, Prof, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very clear.
Yeah, sorry about what happened, and thanks to Halim for jumping in and sharing some of his experience on the current issues related to the hotel industry with the impact. So without taking too much of a time, allow me just to share some of my thoughts about the future of hospitality education. Specifically, of course, due to what's happening now with COVID-19 and all that. So this is the outline of my presentation. A little bit of introduction to TALOS. Some of the key pillars, traditionally what higher education has been doing. The impact of COVID is my observation, and the emerging trends that we can see, and how the future hospitality education will shape or reshape itself. Very quickly on the university, just in case if any of you do not know, we are about 51 years old. We were established in 1969, but we became a full university in 2010 when we moved into this campus called TALOS University Lakeside Campus. We have about 12,000 Malaysian and international students on the campus, 600 academic staff, not counting the admin staff, which is another 500 of them. 50 undergraduate programs, including hospitality, culinary, and all that, apart from medical engineering. And also we are quite a comprehensive university, and we have 34 postgraduate program. We have a PhD in hospitality and tourism, masters in hospitality and tourism, as well as all the undergraduate programs. We are ranked very highly in Malaysia. We are ranked as a #1 private university in Malaysia and Southeast Asia by QS World University Ranking. And we are also, we also have one of the best graduate employment rate based on the ranking of QS World University Ranking. Basically means our graduates are snapped by the industry very quickly. Yeah. And of course, hospitality and tourism is the flagship of the university. He has a very strong reputation. He's been into the industry for about 30 over years. And it's ranked number 16 in the world, ranked as good as some of the better universities in Switzerland, in Europe, and as well as in North America. And in Malaysia, we are also given a Tier 6 ranking. This is the highest ranking for any hospitality school in the country. So that's just to introduce TALOS very quickly. And on higher education, because the topic is about the future of education, is a very interesting topic that's given. I think what I want to share is traditionally how when we look at higher education, we look at of course, these are something that I have in mind when I always look at what we do with the university and what we do with the faculty and school. I run faculty which has about 6 schools. Other than hospitality, tourism, events, culinary, I also run media and communication, education, School of Education, School of Social Science, and hospitality and all that. So we look traditionally. Usually, what we do is we look at teaching and learning as a core area of what we do. Industry engagement is also a very important component. Internationalization becomes another area that we always try to strive towards. And research and innovation, and being a university, we must do research and we must be able to contribute to the community on certain research findings and all that. So research and innovation becomes an important component. But of course, what anchors around this 4 component is the people that we have, the lecturers, the admin staff. The reputation of the university is important. We look at systems and governance as well, and growth. However, after COVID-19, after this whole crisis has happened, I think universities are re-looking or reviewing whether this model is the right model, or they require some changes to this model. So let me just rattle off some of the impacts of COVID-19 based on a couple of literature is that all of us, I'm sure, know that the lockdown has caused a massive economic impact. There are many words here, but what is important is that we must be able to realize that this is probably the worst economic crisis ever that has happened to humankind. This is the worst. It's just worse than the 1930s Great Depression. It's worse than 2009 Asian financial crisis and 1998 crisis. You can see the consumption has reduced significantly. Purchasing power has gone down. Global business confidence has softened. Consumer confidence has dented. Tourism industry lost. I heard in the news that it's about 1.2 trillion US dollar. It's a lot of money. And many economists are projecting that a V-shaped recovery is highly unlikely. It's very difficult to bounce back immediately after such a massive shock waves that this virus has actually caused to the entire world. On the impacts of higher education, we can see that higher education needed to quickly switch to face-to-face learning, face-to-face online learning, engagement through synchronous and asynchronous learning. Synchronous means I have a face-to-face learning live, like what we are doing now. Asynchronous means I record and then I will upload it, and student will be able to view before we meet again. So it allows for kind of a flipped classroom concepts as well. Alternative form of assessment and examination has been structured. The Malaysian Qualification Agency, or the regulatory body that looks at higher education, is quite fast, we must say, in this country to actually adapt to the new situation, because students are not allowed to come on campus anymore since the implementation of MCO. Students are expected to access to internet and electronic device. So this is a shift as well. Lecturers are asked to actually teach online. It's not, if you are not used to it and if you are not trained, it's not easy. But luckily at Taylor's, we have for the last 10 years been practicing 30% of our content to be taught online, so that we have a kind of a blend. Yeah. Capabilities of and readiness for the technology to support this, and also there are lots of adjustments and there are lots of disruption that has taken place. And in terms of delivery, in terms of managing the student, even time zones, because some students have returned home and the time zones are different and they are international students, how do you teach at a different time and all that? So these are the impacts on higher education. And one of the things that I also realized on the impact of the social economic aspect of all of us is the impact on work. The work from home revolution has taken place. In fact, this is one thing that COVID-19 probably has contributed positively, and has pushed the entire global workforce into a massive remote working experiment. And companies are investing. If you read literatures, I'm sure you have seen Google are investing. Google is investing into technologies, investing into their people. and knowing that technology is the new normal of what we all going to do. KPMG recently done a research on working Malaysian, and also found that working from home is more productive than coming to work if you have the right capacity and capability of the communication platforms and tools, and if you are able to actually adapt to all this. Yeah, irrespective of readiness of this or the desire, this pandemic actually has shifted the work from home arrangement from just a concept into a necessity for many of us. So it's a major contribution and change that has happened. And we also see that in terms of socio-economic impact, it has also made us realize that digital divide is so huge in this pandemic. Yeah, and in fact, this pandemic is seen as the greatest revealer of human fragility. Things like social security in the past mentioned as food, job, shelter, but today without technology, I guess many people are deprived from job, from education and social connection. So you can see in this slide, there are about half of the population of the world are deprived of this, and it's called an inequality of the world, it's gross inequality. Many people are not given the kind of privilege to actually have this because of technology, because of platform, because of the government's what you call priorities and all that. So, and from this pandemic, we can also see some emerging macro trends. These are the few that I have actually what you call analyzed and seen that's happening. So very quickly, the emerging macro trends could be the acceleration of digitalization and online economy. This is a fact. Everybody knows that. All of us are meeting on a digital platform now, and we are all meeting thanks to the technology that is there. And this is becoming more and more important, yeah, for businesses and all that. Changing consumer pattern due to loss of jobs, salary cuts, fewer jobs in the market, and all that. Consumer pattern has actually shifted to ability to actually purchase for premium item has today gone down to depremiumization. If there is such a word, I'm not sure if there is such a word, but the word actually means that people are purchasing something which is cheaper, more affordable, and people have actually opted to saving more, looking at what has happened for the last 3 to 4 months. Yeah, so it's actually shifted the way consumers looking at goods and purchasing goods and services. So it also allows for businesses to actually ask themselves, how do they actually pitch themselves in this environment? The third point is on rewriting of social rule. This has been mentioned by both the speakers before me about the notion of safety and well-being becoming so important in all the businesses and social engagement. The next point is increase of accountability. You can see that people now take accountability of their action, of their work and all that. So the how much the virus will spread and all that depends on how accountable we are to what we do. Yeah, and the last point, I'm sure there are many other emerging trends, but the last point here is on about slowing down on sustainability. The increase of single-use plastic masks, for instance, gloves and all that has actually slowed down sustainability in waving into the need for health and safety and all that. Yeah, and I also want to take this opportunity, since there are a couple of senior, very seasoned hoteliers in this group. I also want to take this opportunity to mention this in one slide, that the hotel business is badly disrupted. Many people say it's the first industry to be hit and probably the last industry to recover. And this disruption faced by the hotels has prompted the hotel to rethink their business model and open up new opportunities. Some of my observation is that the nature of business. I think hotels are impacted severely because hotel has always traditionally been working as a hotel where guests or tourists come to stay and have their food and beverages and all that, where it's confined towards one area. I think this nature of this business has become the cause of what the hotel businesses are facing today with the impact. So we need to ask ourselves whether we need to change the way we do the business or not. Hotel must diversify their business and hence increase revenue through different streams. And the rate of hotels adoption on technology is very low, and we need to look at how hotel can increase the use of technology. A simple example, a very simple, very basic example, 101 example, like F&B activities inside the hotel. When the COVID hit the hotel industry, I think it was very difficult for the hotel industry to move into catering businesses, providing food outside through technology, like what GrabFood is doing and all that, because this business were doing very well. But hotels, because lack of technology, lack of versatility, agility, and resilience, I think has made them realize that they are unable to actually turn their business very quickly. And some areas that I would encourage hotels to look at, and very interested to look at this as well, is how hotel can actually come up with concept of co-working spaces. Yeah, how hotels can work with universities and as incubators of new ideas and emerging trend. You know, in Finland and a couple of other European countries, we have hotel rooms has been used as the future hotel rooms. You know, you test guest experience, you test behavioral traits of guests in this hotel, working closely with the universities, and this is an opportunity to do that. And hotel and university can work together to produce some form of certification courses and all that. Okay, and if I were to look at the future of education and focusing just on the area of hospitality, food, tourism, events, airlines, cruise, or ancillary services related to this, there are a couple of areas that we need to look at, and we need to rethink the entire model of higher education in this field. One is we need to start thinking of a hybrid learning model. Hybrid learning model means that there will be a face-to-face learning, there will be e-learning, like what we are doing now, and as well as there will be a blend of socialization skill through clubs and societies. So there is no more conventional way of doing where everyone has to be on campus all the time. But now what you can do is you can actually have a group of students on campus, and then they have some online learning, plus they have some social clubs activities and all that. And this is the future. I think this is how it's going to be. And we can also see that how socialization skills will then allow students to actually develop their attitudes. You know, we call it the affective domain, develop their employability attributes, develop communication skill, problem solving, critical thinking. In tailors, we also look at entrepreneurialism. The word is from entrepreneurial, where students have got the growth mindset, the ability to take failure and then get back onto their feet. Voluntarism and social engagement as well. So for us, we look at the curriculum in a way where it must be able to build resilient, forward thinking and all that to the student. Yeah, we also see that there is a trend where the rise of broad-based, personalized, and flexible curriculum. There will be a drop in over-specialization. I think this pandemic has clearly revealed that over-specialization is not very good. But however, if you can actually have a very broad-based, flexible way of designing the curriculum, I just give some examples over here where you can have electives and minors in hospitality with digital marketing, culinary with entrepreneurship to open your own business, PR and events, marketing events, tourism and ICT and all that. I think that is the kind of graduate, more holistic that we are looking at. And the return of work-based learning, I think this is another area that we need to seriously consider. how apprenticeship model with a well-balanced structure through very deep involvement of industry to come in. Training and development is one area that you can look at through work and study models. And the fourth point is on the importance of real-world immersion. It's important to bridge classroom learning with real-world experience through simulation, projects, consultancy, and all that. So I guess you can read from here how real-world immersion becomes important, and I think students need to be put into a real test, given that the crisis today is what do you call, you can't even predict it. Everything is so uncertain and all that. So with that, I will stop here. So I've taken a bit of time, and perhaps we will take some question soon. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Prof, for your sharings, and it covered very comprehensive from what TALES is all about until towards to what currently TALES are doing, as well as what is will be the future for the hospitality education. Okay, we have heard from our three speakers regarding their views and thoughts on the future of the hospitality educations, and now we move on to the next agenda, whereby it's a time for us to throw out questions to the respective speakers regarding the topics that we're talking about. Okay, there's one question that I would like to bring up. Probably what we can do is that we can address this matter to Prof. How do we address the mismatch of education and the industry needs? What is taught in hospitality schools sometimes different from the actual practice? So, Prof, will be able to respond to that?
Hello?
Yes.
Yes?
Prof?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear?
Okay.
So, okay, Prof, can you hear?
Yes, I can, because there's some voice coming. So I was just
Okay.
waiting. This is not a new question. I think ever since I had started teaching, probably 30 years ago, there's always this debate and dialogue between industry and schools that we are not teaching what the industry want, and the universities will say that the industry need to change because you need to look at a new way of doing things and all that. So there's always industry and university gap between the two. The way I work, I get involved myself into the industry. I network myself with a lot of industry players so that I know exactly what's happening and all that. And I must say that the student, the opportunity for student to be assimilated into the industry has to be given by the university. The university, first of all, must believe that it's important. You saw my fourth point. It is about how university and industry should work together and expose our student. That is very important. That is the reason why probably I don't want to say because of tailors, because we are tailors, but that is the reason why many industry players are happy with the student from tailors, because we listen to the industry. We know that we have to learn a lot, and at the same time we engage through many dialogues with them, and at the same time we also expose our student to it. So internship is not one, adjunct appointments. Many of you that I know are appointed as adjunct and visiting professors in the university because you are a very high level senior person in the industry who can actually bring value to us. So how do you bridge that? Problem-based learning, giving students a kind of case study. Today, internship becomes a big issue because hotels are closed, students don't have opportunity to go to the industry. But what we do, we appoint one industry with one lecturer, and then we get an industry case study for a student to solve in order for the student to always have that bridge between student and industry. So I appreciate the question, but at the same time, I think it's work of both sides, actually, industry and the university, to work together to graduate the right kind of a quality of a graduate.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for the response. All right, we do totally agree. Industry and those academics, universities have to collaborate in order to understand the needs of the economy, what kind of skill, what kind of people that we're looking for. And of course, we are expecting those schools, colleges, and be able to produce that kind of quality generation for the industry. Okay. Another question, talking about any efforts between industry and universities to encourage interest of the next generation to get into hospitality. So perhaps the Alim or Mr. Gray will be able to respond, share your views regarding these questions.
Yeah, Rose, look, it's a good question, and I think it's not something new. It's how hotels or how the industry is perceived ultimately, you know. Let's be honest, who wants to work in a business that is on 24/7, 7 days a week, whenever there's holidays, there's public holidays, everyone is having a good time, you're the one working. You have the night shift, or it used to be called the graveyard shift long time ago. Yeah, right, I think you're laughing about it, but that's how we used to call it, right? The graveyard shift, that carries his name. But the reality is, it's simply a misconception and misunderstanding of what really hotels are all about. You know, I said earlier that I believe hotels is the only industry where you can learn from food and beverage, from sales and marketing, from finance, from front office, from culinary. Name it, you got it in one single place, right? And I think it starts from there. So Professor was saying something right. It's a combination between how the schools and the hotels ultimately come together. Now we do a lot of talks. We go there, everyone wears the flag. I'm Marriott, I'm Hilton, I'm Intercon. I want to get students, blah, blah, blah. But it's not about that. The reality. It's about, you know, and maybe it can be done now, thanks in a way to COVID, in smaller groups and having more engaging sessions in terms of, do you really know what the hotel is all about? Have you ever seen the plant room of the hotel? Have you ever seen the laundry of the hotel and how it works? Do you understand what is a flat work iron? Do you understand what is a dishwasher? Why temperature must be at X amount of degrees? So if you really think about it, you can potentially trigger the attention of students or of anyone who wants to work in hotel in a much different way than just trying to explain them what it is without showing them what real hotel building is all about. And when we talk in terms of resort, it's even bigger because, you know, you have resorts on multi-hectare land. So that is ultimately how we need to bridge the connection, and how parents and what parents think about hotels as well. No one wants to see the kid going to work at 11 o'clock in the evening on a Friday night, going through traffic jam or whatever else it is. But that's the reality. That's what the job ultimately is all about, and no one can replace that human factor. It's not because now you can do, you know, virtual check-ins or whatever else it is without having to see a person. That is what hotels are. Hotels are all about, and will always be all about the people. So how we can potentially work together more with universities, with schools that are experts in teaching hospitality, how we can bridge between what the theory is, what the practice is, ultimately what the reality is before even the student steps into an internship or steps into the real work life of hotels. You know, everyone talks about work-life balance. It's the quest of the Graal, you know, and definitely it is a quest. Yeah, but hotels comes with passion. Everyone plays a key role, and as long as you're passionate with what we do, that's potentially the toughest part, is the consistency out of it. But once you reach that consistency, you know, for me, you reach the greatness. You've been able to achieve something that, you know, ticks potentially all the boxes, but allows you to create that connection with people. Where else in the world you can have a chance to meet guests from all around the world? Where else in the world you have a chance to understand how engineering works, understand air conditioning system, understand marketing strategies, digital part of it, finance, profit and loss, name it, audit, and all that in one single place. And that's how I believe we need to get students or get anyone who wants to enter hotels to understand what hotels is all about. And that comes from communication, simply and only from communication. Communication solves 80% of the problems and creates 80% of the problems at the same time if it's not cascaded if it's not articulated properly. So, yeah.
Thank you, Greg. It's very, very good sharing your thought as well, because we know the reality of the hoteliers. Yes. Probably Cik Halil would like to continue from Greg regarding your experiences as hoteliers as well as a person in the association. How in terms of the hotel industry education can be collaborated.
Thank you, Rose. Yes, I think Professor Dr. Nitya and Greg has actually kind of mentioned already some of the points that I've highlighted here, but it's true. You know, the hotel schools and universities are where students or future hoteliers, provided that they join that faculty for a reason that they're passionate about what they want to get themselves into. Yeah. So the universities prepare them academically, right? And for the universities to be able to prepare them academically, they got to be collaborating with hotels to get latest needs, the latest requirements that we need those students to come out and fill the jobs. Yeah. So it's very important that this industry, it's about experience and it's about exposure, right? And once the student comes out with a sufficient knowledge of what they're getting themselves into, yeah, as how Greg mentioned, that it is one job that you can move within different departments and different divisions and eventually move yourself up the ladder, right? And, you know, to be a hotelier, it's about the passion, but the job actually is an art. It's an art of how you are sharing your passion, which is delivered through the service to the customers, to the guests, even to your own work colleagues. And it's so important that, you know, between the universities, the hotel schools, and the industry itself has a face-to-face exchange about, you know, where we are invited to the hotel schools to provide, from the industry to provide face-to-face talks to the students, sharing with them about what the industry is all about. At the same time, for us as well, from the industry, to learn what the universities are actually evolving into, what sort of new technology, digitalization, you know. Bear in mind, there are a lot of us who have been in the industry who are, you know, veterans and seniors, as some, you know, as our prof mentioned this now, that we are also learning, right? So this collaboration between the two, in, you know, the education side of things and the hospitality side of things is so important that we share. Okay, and there must be some level of guidance between both parties that we are able to get out the best for the students in the future, right? Our problems that we face in the industry as well is, yes, we have graduates from the past. We have graduates who've, you know, probably been working for the last 7 to 10 years, right? And the way the industry has evolved, they too need to refresh themselves. And when we talk about refreshing themselves, and this is, you know, sorry, a bit of marketing coming out now, whereby MATEC's reason is to provide back to the industry people who are already working and sharing the new norms, the new ideas, the new way of how they can progress better in the industry. Okay, so we need to make sure that between the schools and ourselves, you know, that we are able to teach the day-to-day preparation into the operations. Yeah. You know, it's so important that they understand when they come for internship that what they're getting themselves into. And how Greg has mentioned, it's very true. I used to conduct tours for hotel schools, you know, where 20, 30 students will come to the hotel. And during that time, I will divide them into different groups and I will show them the dark side of the hotel. I will show them how the garbage is being controlled, how the loading bays, how the laundry department, all that side. Because what normally they come to a hotel is they will see the bright side of things. But we just want to make sure and make them understand that what are they getting themselves into and be more prepared, right? because the mental preparation is key. What they've learned academically and how can I apply it when I come to work, right? So again, that comes to the point about internship. Yeah, I am one that is so much into internship that I feel this is the only way that students are able to learn over their 2 or 3 years that they're going to do a degree in hospitality, to learn better about the industry, and when we talk about internship, I always insist, and I do get involved with the internships myself, not only leaving it to human resource department to deal with them, because I will have sessions with them. I want to know what they learn. I want to know whether they're asking the right question. I want to make sure that, do I learn coming to a 5-star hotel? Do I learn what I need to learn? Or am I just going to be peeling potatoes and polishing glasses and polishing knife and fork? Because you have to realize there are hierarchies, and I'm sure that certain hotels do have a, what do you call it, a list of checklists, or rather a checklist that the students have to go through. Okay, because this is the time for them to actually be in partnership with the chef and ask the right questions, because being in a not so pressurized situation in a classroom versus now you're having to serve 1,000 people, right, where time is of an essence, this sort of thing needs to happen, right? So therefore, hotels and university internship placement need to be seriously looked into. Professor Nitya has already said that the tailors the tailor students gets placement and gets job. They're one of the top in the world, right? And that's purely because the internship that they go through prepares the students, right? And they are assured that when I go to this particular sort of hotel to do my internship, I'm able to learn, yeah? Because hotels should not take internship as an additional way of covering your manpower costs. That should not happen. They are there for a reason. They are there to learn, right? But you can actually use them to learn, but at the same time, to teach them the tricks of the trade so that they really get exposed and they gain that exposure. Yeah, so that's very important. As I mentioned also just now, part-time jobs. Hotels are looking for students who can come and do part-time jobs, or even do, every weekend I sign up because I don't have classes on the weekend, do a couple of hours. That, on the other hand, is a good collaboration with the hotels, because then I can actually also look at my manpower management. Yeah, so that's very important. And I like the point where Prof. Nitya said that, in tailors, they teach the student about socialization, because the biggest problem we face with Malaysian students are they are so good in academics, they got good scores in their subjects, but they do not know how to apply, and they have no confidence when it comes to socializing. And this industry requires that. This industry needs us to be able to be confident, and that we are able to discuss or have a conversation with a guest. What more if a guest is complaining? How do I handle that? So these are the things that building confidence, that we get quality students coming out. Even before they graduate, they are already in that mindset. And that helps the industry to move forward so much faster. Yeah. So I think that's my thought process about the collaboration that needs to happen. I've been invited a few times to share my thoughts with the tailors and some other universities, because that way the industry players can share. Okay, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, Cik Halim, and also Greg. So we do understand that internship play the important role for the students to get the exposure in terms of the reality of their workplace. And I like the word where Cik Halim mentioned about, you also share about not only the bright side of the hotels, but as well the dark side of the hotels. Meaning that what would be the area that they need to understand at the back, back in the kitchen, etc., the garbage area, the uploading area, downloading area, in the storage, etc., etc. So I do understand that, when I was being a client or guest to the hotel, I used to see hotels such a very luxury place, very cozy place, nice place to be there, and people who work there must be very enjoyed because in the aircon, in the very clean area. But once I step into deeper and I'm working under MATEC and have the exposure to see at the back of the house, I said, wow, these people are very, very, I would say very tough and very interesting because they really have to serve their clients with a smiling face. Now we also talk about with the face mask on your face, but we still can see the smiling behind the mask, right? Based on the face expression. Now, when we talk about the collaboration between the industry and the universities, yes, of course, we're expecting those people who want to be excellent hoteliers must have passion, must know that this is not only science, but also the art of being hoteliers. Now, when I would like to talk about this matter, right, I also would like to recap that just now Prof did mention about the impact on the sustainability. So how do we balance the education and the sustainability? And of course, when we talk about those graduates from the hospitality schools, the impression that they have that once they graduated, they would like to be a manager or supervisory level at least. But it does not address the manpower needs in the industry. So what can we do about that? So Prof, probably you would like to take up these particular questions. Can you share about your views and thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for the question. I was trying to answer to one of the things Mr. Ramesh brought up about issue related to loss of staff and all that. I guess it's a real problem with very little solution that we can find. So perhaps a more robust legal framework. As I said, social security has to be relooked and all. So the question on balancing sustainability with what we do and what we want the future generation to do. I think it is probably a trend that came out because of this crisis. I think when you weigh safety, health, hygiene, sanitation, and all this with the need to probably compromise elements of sustainability. I think United Nations SDG probably will shoot me for saying this, but I think you have no choice. You between the two, what is important now? Safety and health is more important. So you try to use single-use plastics or all this masks and all that. But what we do in our universities, we actually have a module that's related to sustainability and environment. I think many universities are trying to do that today. At a diploma level, I know you call it green practices in the hospitality. At a degree level, we try to really look at sustainable practices in the community and the industry and all that, and try to at a diploma level try to make it very practical for students to apply. But at the same time, in a degree level, make it a bit more complex and have case studies, get speakers from the industry to actually share what exactly they do with green practices and sustainability. It is important, and I think it is something that we need to do. I'm just highlighting that the current trend is people are not so they're not putting this as an important element because of what we are facing now. And the other question about students' desire to take up a higher position and all that. Similarly, I think we need to be able to condition them when they are in the schools or when they are in the hotel schools. Conditioning them in the hotel school is very important. Telling them exactly how the hotel structure works. Don't forget that this is a very different generation from our generation. Yeah, I was told that after generation Y, they came Z, and now they call it generation Alpha. Looks like the Z has gone to A. Alpha is A. I really don't. I've not actually read into this, but I recently heard that it's known as an Alpha generation. Whatever it means. Some people say it's a strawberry generation. You cannot touch. You touch the floor, will be wounded. Because it is so nimble and all that. So this is the generation that we are dealing with. The millennials are very different from us. We must appreciate that as well. While we want them to think the way we think, while we want them to do the way we do, while we want them to go through the way we have gone through, because that's how all parents do, right? We also must be able to listen to them and understand them and see why exactly they are behaving this way. This is a new challenge to the hotel industry. This is something I contemplated in a discussion with many people, that we should actually teach a course, a module or a course on how do you actually handle the new millennials, this young generation, because they are completely different. They are different from what you are used to. In fact, this is a challenge for many managers. So what is important is to understand how exactly they behave and work around that behavior, and because we cannot change them, they're going to be more and more coming. People like us gonna be replaced by them. So workplace will change one day, right? So what is important is trying to balance the two of what the industry expects, or what we expect from the industry, and how do we balance with this generation that comes out that is completely different from what the industry wants. So you need to then jive these two. I'll probably stop there because it's a very complicated dilemma that industry is facing. At the same time, I think we are also facing it, because we are also trying to create or develop students who are able to do this, to able to adjust, adapt, and all that.
If I can add on to that, Pan Rose, Prof, I think you're absolutely right. I'm not too sure about that generation Alpha, but probably because the alphabet after Z, it goes down to A, But indeed, you're right, because for us being in industry for so long now, right, and we understand the culture of service culture. We understand the approaches of what we want them to be providing to our guests, right? However, the new millennials, as you say, only yesterday I was talking during my MHI session with some of the panels there, and many of them actually have lost the knowledge of, historical tourism. Okay, now we're talking about the tourism domestically, everybody says, yeah, I want to go to Penang, I want to go here and there, etc., etc. But then I brought one point up about that brave elephant that went and crashed into the train when the Taiping Railroad was done, which was part of our history, and probably you and I all know all this. But the younger generation look at me and say, oh yeah, really? So they are not even aware about such historical education, yeah? So this is the time when we talk about domestic traveling, where we could actually now bring back our millennials and let them understand this rather than just Google it. You know what I mean? So yes, and when we deal with the younger generation that are fresh out to work, indeed, they are so fragile. I think the word that you were looking for just now probably to me was fragile. Yeah. So you can't say something to them without being reasonable. You got, so the approach that I've taken with dealing with this sort of people, these young millennials, or during my training sessions that I do, is to reason out to them. Only by reasoning out to them will they understand why I need to do it. So yes, this is something that may need to be incorporated into your part of your psychology studies or something like that, which can prepare themselves not only for this industry, but many other industries. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, very, very good point, I must say, Alim.
Thank you, Prof. and Chia Halim. Yes, we do understand in terms of the young generations. This is something also really heard, Prof. Thank you. Our fourth generation coming. Okay, right. So I also received more questions because we do have a very good ideas and view and thoughts about what is happening in terms of the future in hospitality education. So there's one of the questions I would like to pose up to the panels. This is the question. Recent measures taken by hotels in terms of pay cuts, terminations, retrenchment, and so on is giving industry a very bad image. putting off students and youth from investing into this industry. So what can we in this group and panel to do to make sure that this is handled accordingly and provide assurance to the newcomers into the industry? So anyone from the panels would like to take up?
Suddenly, nobody wants to answer that.
No, I actually wrote a written reply that it's a very difficult question to answer actually, because it is a business question, and the question also hinges around uh, the legal framework in this country, because it has to do with protection of labor, protection of jobs, and government policies. Public-private partnership is a key point. How government and the private sector will have to work together uh, to make sure that this doesn't happen. So what is also important is the one of the things that I observed recently is about the role of associations. I'm not only referring to the hotel association, but across the board, all the different trade associations. For instance, for private higher education, we face a lot of challenges because the student cannot come on board on campus. The government is not relaxing some rules on students supposed to do research, students supposed to do practical sessions. It's across the board. You're not supposed to come, so it makes things very difficult. But what we also realized was in that circumstances, trade associations play a very important role. In this case, probably Malaysian Association of Hotels, MATA. I think you have appeared many times on the media to speak on behalf of the industry. So you will need to appreciate the fact that trade associations will play a very vital role in protecting the industry, in having dialogues with the industry, with the government, to ensure that there are clear legal framework to protect the employees in this industry. And I think it's not an easy situation, but if the government is proactive and able to appreciate the impact of this what do you call crisis, I think they will be able to support. So perhaps it's a question that the association need to look into and see how it can actually play the role of protecting all its members from this crisis as well. It's a social security issue as well, jobs and insurance and all this. Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right there, Prof, because from the association standpoint, we can't get involved into the business decisions of owners. Yeah. Obviously, it's all about the cash flow scenario. So what the association can do is actually just to try and mitigate the best we could by having discussions and giving the government the clear picture of what direction will or what will happen if these actions are not taken, if these stimulus packages are not put in place, right? Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
We can
so
hear
if
very
we
clear.
don't put the stimulus package in place, and if some of the tax reliefs or those sort of things that have been put across, by the government through the Prihatin packages and all that, those are the only things that the industry associations can do. Yeah, because at the end of the day, we can only also advise them that whatever you do pertaining to layoff or closing of a hotel is to refer to the respective industry, which is maybe the legal part of it, to talk to MEF, etc., etc. In fact, MAH organized a webinar where we got 3 different lawyers who are IR experts, including MEF president, to have a session to actually explain of what are the do's and don'ts. Because the legal part of it, as you rightly say, is very important. Yeah, we need to abide to that so that the staff don't feel as though today I need you, tomorrow I don't need you, sort of thing. Because it's very important that they are an asset to the industry, and we need to make sure that we can do the best we can for them. Yeah, thanks. Rose, you need to unmute, Rose.
Sorry, forgotten again. Thank you, Chalim. Thank you, Prof, and thank you, Chalim. All right, Greg, I have two questions, all right, for you to share your thoughts about what can hotels do to encourage training and upskilling, number one. Number two, is certification, diploma, or degree still relevant for the career in the hospitality?
So let's start with with number one. What does need to do to encourage training and upskilling? I think throughout the conversation, it's quite clear that it's a combination between, I would say, education and then real job practice. What has happened over the past, I would say, couple of weeks, if not months, is that since every time a new SOP is released, a new norm comes in, and your hotel chain release a new practice training is happening, right? How do we in the room differently? How do we sanitize public areas? What do we do from an F&B perspective? So all that training ultimately happens. But the point is, in 3 months' time, in 6 months' time, are we still going to be able to do the same? Or is it going to be simply put aside and business is back to normal? The long-term part of it is what is really going to make the difference, and that comes in two ways. One, we talked about being able to do a video conferencing or virtual trainings, but the being on the ground, the hands-on, is something that is invaluable. You can't replace that. Whether you put in place social distancing or you put PPs in place, being able to see on the ground what it means is something that is extremely important. Exactly.
Hello. Hello, can that person, Jared, is it? Can you please mute your microphone?
There you go. So it's the good thing about the training part of it is that a lot now is going to be about productivity and efficiencies. Hotels have gone through an exercise about right sizing, downsizing, whatever you want to call it, right? The reality is most of the hotels who are closed, who are still open, have gone through the nasty part of the job, right? There's no other ways to say that. And the reality is that more hotels are going to start hiring again. There's going to be a lot of processes in place, and part of these processes are simply going to be about how do we efficiency in the hotel, how do we maximize productivity in the hotel. Having had a chance to work in a couple of different countries, in some areas the more people I have, the better it is. Well, it's absolutely wrong. In some areas, we say the more technology I have, the less people it is, and that's wrong as well. I think it's about how do we manage expectations with the current status that hotel has, and if hotels go back to 2019 occupancy over 80% or more, how can we manage it as well? Take countries like Australia, take countries like Europe, where productivity and efficiency is key. For a 500 rooms hotel, you have a 0.7 or 0.6 ratio in terms of manning. Take now in Malaysia or Indonesia, for a 500 rooms hotel, you have a ratio of 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. A check-in is a check-in, a burger is a burger, a meal is a meal, a room is a room. That doesn't change. What changes is how we set our mentality in terms of what is efficiency, what is productivity, how can we maximize it versus not. It's not because these can be low in one country or can be high in the other that suddenly there needs to be a lot of people coming in. I think it's about how we're going to train our staff, our future hotel managers, our students in multi-skilling. The key comes a lot in terms of how many tasks can you do more than just a normal task is. A, because you can grow faster. B, because you might be able to help several people in one area. And at the end of the day, you know, as I said earlier, everyone wants to be the king of the world, but no one wants to start from the bottom of the ladder. And I've had a chance to come from operation background, right? So the fact of understanding what operations mean helps a lot ultimately when you have to make some decisions. You know, so being able to have a view of all the different departments in the hotel and put that together allows you in one way to multi-skill and to open your mind to what really hospitality is about and understand what each department goes through. You know, it's not just about I give you a solution to a problem. It's about, you know, how do we ensure the problem doesn't happen again? And all that comes, it can come from experience, it's sure, but it can come as well from knowledge that you are taught. But, you know, are really people willing to go through that? You know, the generation X, Y, Z, alpha, beta, whatever you want to call them nowadays. You know, there's some really great youngsters in there. But, you know, once again, hotels is not just about the digital platform out of it, though it's extremely important. Hotels is about ultimately every single level. It's about, you know, the people that interaction between I text you WhatsApp, you're sitting at the end of the table, you reply to my WhatsApp or WeChat or whatever it's called, versus I'm going to talk face to face about a serious conversation. No one wants to have these conversations nowadays. You know, 15 years ago, there was no WhatsApp. Huh? There was no emails at home available everywhere. You had to talk to someone to say something nice or to say something potentially maybe not that nice, put it that way. It was a face-to-face conversation. There was no emoji coming in, happy, not happy, smiley face, no smiley face. It was about, let's sit down, let's talk. And you had to flex your style. You had to put yourself in the other one's shoes to be sure, you know, the message you convey is clearly understood. And that's a skill that we need to bring back in hotels a lot. And that part ultimately comes through training. And training allows ultimately multi-skill, and multi-skill allows to share more your own experience, your own thoughts, and ultimately understand what else is coming in as well.
Okay, thank you, Greg, for your views and thoughts. And yes, definitely all these skills required through the experiences. They have to learn, they have to take it out during their real work environment. So how about those students who are getting their certification, their diploma or degree? How is it relevant to the industry? Let's say, for example, if I'm just fresh from school and I don't have any certification, I don't have any diploma or degree, I work in the hotels. So compared to someone that having that qualification, how does it relate to the industry?
So I'm going to make friends here or not, but I'll keep it simple. You know, I think there's two schools in there. You know, having a diploma is something extremely important because it has taught you a certain theory, which is great, you know, and maybe that works very well from a finance perspective, from an accounting perspective, you know, from an engineering perspective. Sometimes, you know, being able to understand the mechanical part of it, no questions asked, you know, from a perspective as well. But sometimes, you know, having no experience or having no education might be the best. Our GMs nowadays, above a certain age, and put it away, or above a certain seniority, right, have started with no diplomas. How many mentors have had a chance to work with that, you know, stopped school when they were 15 and 16 and started working as a porter in a hotel or as a steward and became GMs, RVPs, VPs, whatever else, you know? So there has to be the right mix. So the certificate is important because it's way more than just a piece of paper, but that has to be combined with a certain experience as well. You cannot pretend to come sit down, be the king of the world and not understand what your kingdom is all about, right? Otherwise you're going to last 1 year, then you'll be kicked out or you're going to be, you know, eliminated by natural process. So it's about, again, understanding what is rock bottom, you know, how tough is a housekeeping job to clean toilets, how tough is a stewarding job to clean a 1,000 packs event, you know, and being able to understand that because you've done it, even if you haven't done it for a long time, but simply because you've done it, gives you a certain sense of respect for every single job in the hotel, right? So that mix comes from an education perspective, be not telling people that because you got a diploma you're going to be suddenly the director of it is. No, it doesn't work like that. There has to be a right combination. We have now hotels that because of the COVID situation are moving. I give examples, right? Staff from finance move down to operation, and we have had situations as well, in hotels where everyone suddenly has to go down and clean rooms because you have no workers that came out that day, you have issues with foreign workers, whatever else it is, or you have to go to the kitchen, polish glasses, and clean cutlery. And that's what the job is all about. Understanding these parts doesn't mean you have to do it every day. Simply makes you understand each value of the person. So there's no right or wrong whether you got diploma or you don't have diploma. About you as a person, either you're going to be the passenger of the car or you're going to be the driver of the car. Better be the driver ultimately than being the passenger.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. All right, very fruitful comments and also views from Greg. Okay, there's another question also regarding from the participants, from the audience. I open up to any of the speakers. Okay, work from home definitely has positive impact, but in most cases, it has invaded the privacy of families and in disrupting the peace at home and family, including work-life balance. Moreover, it seems as less productive in some cases due to these hindrances. Does each industry have an SOP or some kind of guidelines to manage work from home? What do you think we should do to overcome? Anyone? Prof. Jalim or Greg?
Maybe I just very quickly, I try to answer this question in my reply. Work from home, like what I said in my presentation, is something very new. It's a revolution. It was just a concept before MCO. It's an idea in many people's head that we can work from home, but never. I think other than some IT companies and all that, not many industries has actually tried. Even education, I was a very skeptic of a work from home concept because I never believed that we can actually work from home and be so productive. But I was completely wrong actually when if you got the right platform, you got the right technology, you got the right communication tool, and you have the know-how how to work within these parameters of working from home. You can have very effective meetings conducted without wasting time going to office. You can have meetings at times when when you physically are in the office, you can't have. So it's actually changed the way we work, and it became very productive. However, I agree with the comment by one of our participant here that it infringes into privacy, and that is because yes, we are all trying this new thing. The bosses doesn't know when to call you or not to call you, so they just call whenever they want, including at night. And they say, okay, let's have a meeting. I have the same experience as well. When you work from home, suddenly it's a 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, or even 8:30 at night meeting is called, and you just go into your computer and say, okay, what is it about? And because and that is because my it's just a observation. My thinking is this happens because we are in a crisis. The situation is so unpredictable and uncertain that the need to meet and discuss about something which is not a normal situation arises at any time in a crisis. So if this normalizes, assuming the crisis is over, the culture of working from home is still there, maybe someone work 2 days or 3 days at home, work 2 or 3 days where it's allowed. I know operationally you can't do that for certain jobs. Then, if a more systemized culture put into place and all that, then work from home also becomes a norm. and people will be able to respect privacies. People will be able, because now, for instance, I'm now in the office. 2 days ago, I was at home. And it's not easy to manage meetings when you are in the office and you are at home. And the university have to close at 6 because that's what we are told to do by NKN. So if you have a meeting at 5, if you know that you cannot finish your meeting by 6, you better have your meeting from home, not from office, because you will interrupt your meeting schedule. So there are many adjustments that has to be done by people, and I guess we are just going through an adjustment period. That's what my thinking is. However, my experience is it is productive, and it's not so bad after all.
I'd like to add to that. I think it's about the discipline that one has within the company scope. That if you're saying that okay, we're going to be working from 9 to 5, and then we break for lunch, sort of thing. So it's really in our industry especially, and for me, if I was trying to work from the office, and because we are in operations, we are having quite a number of interruptions during our sessions, or during if you want to have to do our work in the office, sort of thing. So working from home, again, the interruptions are not there, provided you've got a strict discipline, a system in place, and you're able to share your workload, and in my home itself, there are two of us, my son and I. So the way I look at how he's dealing with the education university, right? And it's a lot of new things for the university as well that they need to go through. Whilst at the hotels as well, we needed to go through quite a lot as well. So I think it's important here that everybody understands and has a discipline of the work ethic from home. That needs to be in place.
Okay, thank you, Encik Halim and Prof. Yes, we do agree when we talk about work from home, it depends on the nature of the work itself. What is the role of the person? Is it suitable to work from home or from some other places? Yes, when you are assigned to work from home, you have to have a discipline. And of course, some privacy need to be adjusted to ensure that everything is within your control, so that nothing, uncensored things is interrupted, right? So not every single job required a person or an individual to work from home. It depends, as I mentioned earlier, the nature of the work itself. Because some people require traveling. So no matter what, the person required some sort like usage of the digital platform to offer a meeting, discussion, etc. And since we know that it's almost hitting 1 p.m., I also would like to go on with if I can go on with another question. Probably I just open up this to Halim to look into it if you can respond. There will be abundance of manpower available in the market after COVID-19. So is that going to threaten hospitality graduates? Or perhaps later on, Greg also can give some input as well as Prof regarding these particular questions.
Okay, I think this is quite a tricky question to answer. Yeah. Yes, there are a lot of experienced hoteliers out there who's been laid off and looking for jobs now that the RMCO is happening, and we see quite a number of our member hotels starting to reopen again. Yeah. So it will be a situation where there will be a need for experienced workers, and at the same time, there is going to be an opportunity for the new batch of people who are graduating. As how Greg has mentioned earlier about multi-skilling, we need to now, merge the two together, because the experienced people will be able to share how it used to be done before, the service culture, and we're going to need the new people coming in who are more towards the digital world, the IT savvy, millennials that will be able to enhance the services that's going to be provided to our guests or to the industry. At the end of the day, it's important that we are going to use technology to bring in to do marketing, to enhance the services, to enhance the way we do work in the hotel. But at the same time, we will be needing those people who are experienced in terms of customer relations, which was previously there or is still there and still required in the industry. So there will be a marrying situation of these two different types of people. Now, the only challenge we will have now is actually the timing, because COVID-19 is not over. It will take quite a bit more time. Now, we are talking about domestic travel. And I've always said that if there are 30 million Malaysians, if 20 million decides to travel domestically, that will be great for the industry, isn't it? You know, the hotels will be back to where it was. Maybe we won't have so much in terms of the banqueting or MICE, but definitely the rooms will be occupied. Yeah. And, you know, as soon as the borders are starting to open and we start seeing traveling happening again from international market, you will see that eventually it will get to where we want to be. It may not be 80% or you know, more than that on an average, but at least we'll hit back to our 65 or 70% norms, you know, but it will take time. Unfortunately, time is the one that is not helping at the moment, but at the end of the day, it will get there. And again, it's a time for us to prepare ourselves with the available students who are going to be coming out within the next 12 months, right? That the hotels can start preparing themselves and re-looking at their budget, looking at their manpower budget and say, okay, how am I going to now balance between my existing staff, between the staff that I need to hire again, and how am I going to fill this up with interns, and how am I going to fill this up with new graduates? So I think this is something we need to address together, yeah? But don't lose hope, because I can assure you hospitality industry is definitely here to stay, because we need it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chalim. I like to hear hospitality will be here and we will stay. All right. So how about Greg? Do you have any views that you would like to share?
Yep, thanks. So it's true that time is going to be the main factor, right? But I think a few things that that can happen at some stage is that, you know, the hotels rely a lot on foreign labor for stewarding, housekeeping, security, right? Look, nothing wrong with that, and don't get me wrong, but I think that if hotels start looking at local staff to do this, to replace these positions, that's going to make already a bit of a difference, right? Everyone has their own reality. Is that indeed there's going to be a fair bit of people that are going to be looking for jobs. Now, not every job might be your dream job, but the reality is that it's better having a job, medical coverage, or no job, right? And how do we understand that? You know, I believe that that's going to be the first step when the hotel is going to start showing a bit of a recovery, that, you know, we need to be sure that we look locally who we can hire and what jobs can we give. But now, look, the reality is that, locally speaking, not everyone wants to work in these jobs neither. And that's the sad reality, right? Whatever is, I believe, you know, there's no dirty jobs in hotels, and I don't say that now because I'm the GM of the hotel, but I've started at the low rank of operations, and I can tell you that every job counts, and it's not just a speech, it's the reality, right? However, the reality is that not everyone wants to work in housekeeping, not everyone wants to work in stewarding. Then you have the MCs that comes in. You have plenty of stories that are available all over the place. But if we want to maintain local jobs, there needs to be ultimately a certain understanding as well, right? It's going to take maybe 6 months, 12 months, 18 months before we start seeing hotels going back to, as Alim was saying, 60, 70% occupancy or more. Some hotels do that already now in Malacca on the weekend, but that's just on the weekend. We're talking here ultimately as an average, right? And, you know, is it easy to find casuals to come as well? Look, when we have big banqueting events, you know, we all use students, we all use part-timers, but the problem is that every hotel uses the same people. So then it becomes a bargain. I want 10 ringgit, I want 12, I want 13. Okay, I can pay you more, therefore you come to me. But what about the rest? There's a pool of other people that are available as well. So how do we reach out to them? How do we potentially work closer with university and saying, hey, look, we have all these hotels, they're looking for part-timers on the weekend. Again, is the weekend made for party and socialization, or is the weekend made for working? For the hotel, Sunday is Monday, and Monday is Saturday. It doesn't change. So that part is something important. It's not just needing people Monday to Friday, it's needing people 7 days a week at some point. So there needs to be maybe, I would say that, not a collaboration, but a wider understanding in terms of what job is everyone willing to do. To give priority to local jobs. Because that's what is important.
Thank you, Greg, for the thoughts and also your views regarding this particular matter. Yes, you are right. It's a matter of the person who would like to work at their convenience. You need to look into the industry, what is the needs and the challenges as well. And from your academic side, Prof, do you have anything to say? Prof, are you still there?
Yeah, our two speakers, I think, have said it very well, Alim and Greg. So if I were to just add, I think we just look at the perspective of what a graduate wants or student wants. And I guess everyone goes to a school because they want to get a qualification and they want to get a good employment. Anywhere you go, I think that's the reality. So employability skill is very important. Like I've mentioned just now, I think if the university can prepare the student well with a well-grounded reality of what the industry is, prepare the student with the right transferable skills as well. So meaning that if I'm a hotel graduate, if the hotel industry is not open to me currently, maybe I can go to the banking industry if I want to, because I have learned enough skills that allow me to do customer service and all that. In fact, just to share with everyone, more and more of our graduates from hotel management program are being snapped by the banking and financial service industry because of their hospitality nature, because they're trained in that way. So student will be very adaptable to look at opportunity. So the good one will be able to adapt and will be able to move into the industry. From the perspective of the employer, I guess they definitely want what is best for them. They will look at, I think Halim mentioned it very well, a balance of a senior group with a younger group, because the younger one are more technology savvy, for instance. So that kind of a blend perhaps will help the industry or the hotel to maximize on its workforce and be able to make more profit, because anyway that's what the business is all for. So I guess we need to look at both. For the hospitality and tourism industry, I'm also very optimistic that this is just a temporary problem. The minute you find a vaccine, which I think is actively being done, it was predicted that by early this next year, a vaccine will be found. By the time you do your try run and all that, I think by March or April it can be then applied. And there goes this virus, and hopefully not another virus that will come. But that's what the industry is all about. IATA projected that the industry in the next one and a half year will be back as how it is in 2019, how it was in 2019. So it's very optimistic projection that this industry will survive, and it's become part of life. Whether you like or you don't like, you want to travel and you want to get out of work. What you call stress and all that, and have time for travel and leisure. So I guess the industry will survive, and the student will look at what they want from the industry, and the industry will look at what they want from the student. It's all a balance. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Halim and Greg. In a nutshell, I would say that in terms of the topics of today, future of the hospitality educations, yes, we are seeing that the universities are now already prepared themselves towards the future of the hospitality educations. They are not only looking into the face-to-face, but also looking into the using of the digital platform for them to also engage with the students. Yes, as a hospitality students, they are not only know how to make use of the technology, but they themselves must be people-oriented. They must know how to greet people, have a right attitude, because not just beside of meeting MQA requirement, but also we must look into what actually the industry, the core value that we are looking for. Yes, MQA requirement is one of it that we need to meet certain requirement from the Ministry of Education per se, but in terms in the industry, what is the reality? As mentioned by Encik Halim as well as Greg, that we are looking for someone that is really passionate in what they are doing, who are having a skilled people, who knows how to serve the best to the people beyond what we are expecting. Because it's all about experiences. We are not only talking about just a customer service, but experience service. So probably before we end this particular session, I would like to just give another 1-2 minutes to any who would like to say a few things before we end up, before we say thanks to all the audience who take part on this particular webinar. So Prof or Cik Halim or Greg, do you have any 1-2 words to say before we end our webinar session?
Just thank you very much for allowing me to be there as well. I think it was a great 2 hours. Time flies.
Our pleasure. Thank you for being with us.
Some good questions and great
you,
to be able to assist here.
Yeah, it's a good session, and thank you for inviting. And I quite appreciate the questions and the thoughts by everyone, including the speakers and all that. Thanks.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to both Greg and Prof. Nitya for participating in this, and to all those who participated and posted your questions for us to cover during this webinar. And to MAH and of course Yap and Puan Rose, the Secretariat, thank you very much for your great 3 series of webinars. As I said, this should not be the last, as we need to engage more with our industry players, and to share and get more insights from the people from outside our industry about how to move forward. So, stay safe, everybody. And, as I've mentioned in my chat to everybody, kita jaga kita. Take care and God bless.
Thank you, everyone, once again. Hope we can see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much.